If your inbox feels exhausting, it's usually not because you have too many emails. It's because every single email demands a decision. Do I need to reply? Is this a task? Should I save this? Is this a reference point? Is it a newsletter? Is it a promotion? That constant micro decision making destroys focus. So instead of relying on willpower, I use Workspace Studio flows to make those decisions happen automatically. And today I'm going to show you exactly how I use it to protect my planning system, because I used to dread my inbox knowing it was going to take half the day to go through it, figure out what needs reply, and then the actual energy after that to reply. So it's no longer a giant pain. It's cut my inbox time down dramatically, and I can't wait to show you how I do it. So in case we haven't met before, hi, I'm Liz Stapleton from Creator Ops Hub. I'm a systems-focused online business owner, and I help creators build with clarity and scale without chaos through what I like to call the Creator Operating System. So the workflow strengthens two systems, my planning system and my information system. And if you're like, what are those? I have a flagship video. You can check it out. I'll try to remember to link it up here. Email should be an intake channel, right? It should not be where priorities are decided. The moment your inbox becomes your planning system, your day starts being driven by whoever emailed you last, right? And this workflow and using this tool within Gmail, which I will say it's a paid Gmail tool, helps to prevent that. And so instead of manually processing every message, I use flows that route emails into the right operational lane automatically. And that's what keeps my planning system clean. And a lot of people are probably familiar with using filters and tags, and those are a great first step, but this is a newer thing I've discovered within Gmail within the last couple of months, and I find it's even more powerful. So let me go ahead and share my screen so you can see what I am talking about. So here we are inside of Gmail, and if you notice up here, we all have seen the Gemini, but there's now this studio. So let me go to my flows. Apparently I have one I need to tweak, but let's just go ahead and start with my daily digest newsletter. And this is newsletter flow because it's one of kind of the biggest hidden distractions for creators, is like going through all the newsletters we're in. And you don't necessarily want to unsubscribe because in some examples, you know, I'm an affiliate for them and I want to hear about that. But for some reason, they are sending me more than affiliate emails. And because of where I'm located in the US, and depending on the size of their business, they might not be required to get the specific consent for all the things. Anyway, that's a whole email consent issue. You can check out my other channel for legal stuff. But if I click into my daily digest newsletter, what it does is on a schedule every day, 7 a.m., it's going to run. And it's going to get the contents of a Google Sheet. And it's going to ask Gemini, you know, hey, let's categorize these into sales promotions, events, summits, content, etc. And we'll show you how I get the Gmail sheets, and then notify me by email. So it's going to be like, here's your daily newsletter digest. So it saves me from having to go through who knows how many hundreds of emails, right? And to create that digest, I go in here, and basically what it does is when I get an email, it needs to decide, hey, is this a newsletter? Is this customer support? Like, what is this about? And if it meets sort of the newsletter criteria, then it's going to ask Gemini to summarize it in a couple of sentences and throw it into this spreadsheet I have. Let me see if I can open it. Let me go to Gmail inbox summaries. So then it starts March 9th and it goes on. It'll just give me an overall, you know, rundown of what the email is and if it's relevant to what I need. And then the other one will go through and be like, these are ones we think you should actually know about. So it's just, again, saving that time. Go back. And then, so those two really take care of a lot of the newsletters, but then there's other emails I get too, right? So you can see I've got ones that are looking at, hey, is this a collab request and tagging it appropriately, or a collab invite? Or is it something that's support, in which case I want to draft an email that says, hey, here's what you need to submit to my support ticket. I still need to go send those. I don't have it automatically send just because I love AI, but we still got to have that human overview to make sure it's accurate. And then this one really helps me cover kind of the non-newsletter side of things. So on a schedule, it's going to look at all of the unread emails from the previous day, and it's going to break out what's going on with them. And then it's going to notify me by email. Okay, so these three workflows come together to sort of batch low priority information and let me know what is high priority. So instead of checking throughout the day, I will look at these, see, okay, this needs responding now. or, oh, those are some interesting things I should check out. But I'm looking at 2 things as opposed to, hundreds. So I'll actually show you what I have it do is I then have a filter set up so that when the email comes in with this, it sends it to ClickUp because that's my task management. So let me pull up an example. So that I can just go in here and see, oh, these were yesterday's emails. And it says, oh, no action items, meetings are up to date, FYI, you're all caught up. Perfect. And so then I know like how important my inbox is. So it just really kind of sets the tone for the day, and I'm not stressing jumping into my inbox unless there is something urgent. Go back. All right, so I've talked about the daily digest newsletter, the newsletter digest intake, and then my, summary of unread emails. Let me go ahead and talk about sort of my collaboration organization, and that's where the active collab and collab invites come in. So this is one of my favorite examples of systems protecting mental energy, because not every collaboration email deserves the same response time or planning attention. So these help to automatically identify active partnerships, new invites, and ongoing collaborations. And that means I'm not manually hunting through old threads, trying to remember where something stands. Everything kind of gets put into its own operational lane. And this is really helpful during launches, promotion, summit launches, things like that. And it reduces context switching for me. So with this one, when I get an email, it's going to go through a decision of, hey, is this email related to an active collaboration I'm participating in? Answer true if any of the following apply. It contains promotional materials for me to use, contains a deadline reminder for the collaboration, the affiliate tracking links, the scheduling information, and it contains like a contract agreement and partner onboarding information. If any of these other ones are true, it's false. It's an invitation, it's customer support request, it's a newsletter, it's promoting an event for me to attend or purchase, but it's not one I'm actually a part of. It's spam or unrelated, or there's not enough information to determine. So it's like, does it meet one of these? Yes, move on. Does it not? No, stop. So if it's true, it's going to then add a label. So active collab. And that's all there's to it. I think that's just sitting in there. That's fine. So that way, when I'm getting my promo materials, I'm in, I think, 4 different events this month, in the first week of May, when I'm recording this in April. So, I need to stay on top of where do I find these promotion materials. I can share how I organize them later so that, once I've received them via email, I don't have to dig them out of email repeatedly. But that's a different video for a different day. And then collab invites, because I love doing collaborations. It's one of my favorite ways to grow is through collaborations and working with other creators. So I want to make sure I'm really, filtering up the invites I have to see if they're going to be a good fit. So for this automation, it says, when I get an email, here's the decision tree. Is this a collaboration inquiry or invitation? Answer true if any of the following apply. It's proposing a freebie swap, bundle, giveaway, collaboration. If the sender is inviting participation in a summit or a virtual event, if they're proposing a joint venture or JV workshop, the sender is directly inviting a brand partnership or collaboration, or the sender is pitching any form of cross-promotion or co-marketing opportunity. And answer false if it's any of these, which is pretty similar to the other one. If the email's for promoting or advertising an event, right? Because those are not invitations. And so it's that it's a fine line, but this helps to really distinguish. It does a great job coming up with these examples. And then if it's true, it's going to go ahead and add a label that says collab invite. So I can quickly go and see those if I need to. All right. And then I kind of mentioned this one already. I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. So I have found that managing my customer support works better through a ticketing system I built through Airtable. Again, another video to walk through that. But what that means is I don't want to be getting emails for support and then it's living outside and then I have to try to remember that there's kind of a support issue within my inbox. And I've been doing the ticketing system long enough that's pretty rare that I get an email for customer support in my inbox, but on the occasion I do have this workflow set up, and it's really meant to protect both my time and the customer experience. So instead of manually replying with the same instructions over and over again, this flow automatically kind of tells them or drafts a thing that says, hey, this is where you should, the proper support channel if you actually want to get fast help, because I don't like to be in my inbox. I don't live in there. I'm maybe tackling it 2 or 3 times a week max to just get it all cleaned up, and I'll mark things as read that I've already seen summaries for, and I'll go and respond to the things that need responding. But for customer support, I'll just be like, hey, if you want to actually get this in, because when stuff gets buried in my inbox, it really gets buried. So, I'm not looking to replace human support, but I am looking to remove sort of repetitive administrative work. And so this is what gives me more time for creative work. So what this workflow looks like is when I get an email, ask, is this a customer support request? And it's answer true if any of the following apply. They're asking a question about a product, service, or how something works. The sender is reporting a technical issue, bug, or problem. The sender is expressing a concern, complaint, or frustration about a product or service. The sender is requesting help, assistance, or a refund. The email is a reply to a previous thread that contains any of the above. An answer false if it's a newsletter, general inquiry. There's not enough information to determine. So if it's true, then it's going to actually do a second set of questions because I do my ticketing system, it does send an email as the response. So if someone replies to that email, that absolutely needs to be surfaced. That's not here's a, URL to submit your ticket, because they've already done that. And so it needs to check, is there a ticket number within the email? Because if there is, then that's a different thing for me to do. If there isn't, then you need to decide where was it sent, and then what is the appropriate support URL to provide, and draft a reply. So using the support documentation below, check if the sender's question can be answered correctly. If yes, provide a clear, friendly answer. If it's like, I'm having trouble logging in. And you can see I have files in here that help it to figure out what's going on. So that's another nice thing, is you can include files. So I've got my customer support policies, which go through typical customer support requests and what the answers are. Also includes like my policies for refunds and terms and things like that. And then if it doesn't, let them know their question couldn't be answered, and to direct them to submit a support ticket. And then always reply with the appropriate support link. Keep it warm, professional, and concise. And then it drafts a reply if need be. So, and then I can go into drafts and send them pretty quickly. So yeah, that is kind of my favorite way to use this. It's like I said, it's really cut down on my amount of time in my inbox. I feel a lot more confident and comfortable ignoring my inbox, because I know the things that really need attention are getting surfaced for me through these workflows. And I don't have to go digging through to see if I'm missing something. So, a couple of, as I was building this out, I did a lot of experimenting to figure out what worked best. And so I want to share just a couple of common mistakes that you might run into if you're trying to do this. And the first one would be trying to create one giant workflow for everything. Don't do that. It becomes very messy very quick. So if you're in Workspace Studio, which does require a paid Gmail account, which I think a lot of online business owners do have because we have a domain-based email, focus on building purpose-based flows. So it could be a digest, like I have with my newsletters. It could be support, it could be collab, it could be action items. The smaller systems will scale better. Mistake number 2 is trying to automate decisions that need your judgment. So automation should provide a route, and planning should still require strategy. Mistake number 3 is constantly checking your inbox. If I'm constantly checking and reading and marking, then the flows can't do their job, because there's not going to be the unread emails for it to review. Batch your email review windows. Like I said, I go in 2 or 3 times a week. And the system really works best when you're pairing it with specific review times. And then finally, the goal here isn't inbox zero. It's trying to protect, decision fatigue and protect your energy from having all the micro decisions of dealing with an inbox. And ideally, you don't want your inbox to be what runs your planning system and your to-do list. So it should help with that as well. So Workspace Studio, if you haven't used it, definitely check it out. And it helps me to route information so it doesn't become mental clutter. And that's really how I like to build systems that scale without chaos. If your inbox is still pulling you out of focus, it's usually a sign that there are other hidden workflow leaks in your business. And that's exactly why I created my 10-minute time waster audit. It helps to quickly spot where your systems are creating unnecessary work so you can fix the root issue. And I'll have that link below. Definitely go grab it. It's completely free. And I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.